Today, we're going to get into a really personal story. It's about sacrifice, it's about ambition, and, well, it's about the unintended consequences that can come from building a dream for two, only to find yourself kind of left out of the final picture. And it all starts with this one single line. Talk about provocative, right? This quote just frames the whole thing perfectly. It immediately sets the emotional stakes and makes us ask, why? What's the story behind this deep sense of regret?
So where does a story like this even begin? Well, like a lot of stories, it starts with a dream. A really specific dream, actually. It's about building a life with someone who just gets you, on a deep cultural level.
And look, this wasn't some vague hope. It was a plan, a blueprint. The man in this account went back to his home country with very clear goals in mind. To find a partner who shared his values, to build a life literally from the ground up, and to start a family. That was the vision for their future, together.
But, having a blueprint is one thing. Actually building the foundation is a whole different ballgame. And according to the source, this particular foundation was built on an incredible amount of personal sacrifice. And let's be really clear about what that sacrifice looked like. This wasn't just, working a little overtime. We're talking about a serious grind. Side hustles like cleaning dishes, tough labor in a factory, just grueling, difficult work. And all of it was for one single reason: to save enough money to go home, get married, and start that life they dreamed of.
All that hard work then leads to this really pivotal moment, an investment that would change everything. This is where he goes from just being a provider to becoming the actual architect of his partner's independence.
And this is the key part, right? The intention behind it all. He put her through school. But why? So they could start a better life. That word, together, is everything here. This wasn't just a generous gift. It was an investment in their mutual future, a strategy to lift them both up. So when you map it all out like this, you can really see the whole arc of the story. It starts out making perfect sense, right? The dream is fueled by sacrifice, which then leads to this big investment. But that's where the path takes a turn, the shift. That's when the investment pays off, for her, big time. She gets this high income, this real independence. And according to this account, that success leads directly to the final stage, conflict.
And this is where everything just flips. The very success that was supposed to be the glue for their future together suddenly becomes the thing that might just tear it all apart.
And this slide just lays it all out, the massive gap between what he hoped for and what he says happened. On one side, you've got the dream, a life partner, mutual respect, shared success. And on the other, the reality he describes, feeling disregarded, being seen as nothing, and eventually being told he's just not of her level anymore. The distance between those two columns is just, wow.
So what do you even call a feeling like that? Well, just so we can wrap our heads around it, let's call it perceived obsolescence. It's that feeling of being made irrelevant after you've already served your purpose. Think about it this way. He was like the scaffolding used to build a skyscraper, but once the building was finished and shining, the scaffolding was torn down.
So where does all of this end up? It lands on something really heavy. It's not just anger or confusion, but something more: the incredibly high price of regret.
And that's the real gut punch of this story, isn't it? The tragic irony of it all. The very thing he did to build a better life together, putting her through school, is what, in his telling, gave her the tools to leave that life behind. The tool he thought was for construction became a tool for demolition.
And that leaves us with this final, really challenging question. This story presents one painful answer, and it forces you to think about the complicated dance between support, ambition, and personal growth. It makes you wonder, what happens when the very plans you helped build no longer have a space for you?